The sleek Orion Dominion starship glided silently through Earth's atmosphere, its cloaking technology rendering it invisible to the human military and satellite systems. Earth was just one of countless planets the Orion Dominion had surveyed, but it was this world's rumored apex predator that had brought the Empire's interest here. A creature so fierce, so cunning, that it was said to rule over all other life on Earth. The commander, a towering figure of muscle and armored scales, gazed at the planet below from the observation deck. He had faced many creatures in his time, but the reports about Earth's apex predator were unsettling. If even a fraction of the rumors were true, this creature would be the most valuable weapon the Dominion had ever secured. "Deploy the scouts," he ordered, his voice a deep, resonant growl that commanded immediate attention. In the control room, the crew moved with military precision, sending a squad of scout drones down to the surface of the planet. The mission was simple: locate and capture Earth's deadliest predator. The drones descended into the dense urban jungle of New York City, scanning for signs of life. The bioscanners pinged with a multitude of life forms: humans, birds, insects, but none of these matched the energy signature they sought. And then, as the drones glided silently through the streets, they detected a distinct signature, hidden in the shadows of an alleyway. There the commander growled, "We found it." The capture team, a squad of elite Orion soldiers, landed quietly in a desolate corner of the city. Their figures, cloaked in shimmering light-bending armor, were invisible to the human eye. They moved with practiced efficiency, securing a perimeter around the alleyway. The air was thick with tension, each soldier's hand gripping a weapon designed to tranquilize the target without damaging its genetic integrity. One of the soldiers, a massive figure bristling with anticipation, peered down the dark alley. His enhanced vision caught the faintest movement, a flicker of shadow against the wall. He motioned for the others to close in. There he whispered into his communicator, "The creature is cornered." The Orion commander watched the scene unfold through the squad's helmet cams, his eyes narrowing in satisfaction. The predator was small, surprisingly small for something so feared. But appearances were often deceiving. He had learned that the hard way in the past. "Proceed with caution," he warned. "It's more dangerous than it looks." The lead soldier raised his tranquilizer rifle, aiming carefully. Just as his finger tightened on the trigger, the creature turned its head. Two glowing, predatory eyes met his gaze. The soldier froze. Without warning, the creature moved. It darted forward with lightning speed, a blur of fur and claws. The soldier barely had time to react before the creature was on him, striking with lethal precision. He fell, his body crumpling as the others fired in a panicked frenzy. The creature weaved through the shots effortlessly, its small body twisting and leaping in ways the Orions couldn't predict. In seconds, two more soldiers were down, their armor shredded, vital systems compromised. The last two soldiers, backs pressed against the alley wall, fired desperately. But it was too late. The creature vanished into the shadows once more, leaving behind nothing but the unconscious bodies of the elite soldiers. The Orion commander watched the helmet feed cut to static, his jaw clenched in frustration. The soldiers had been incapacitated almost immediately. This was no ordinary predator. "Deploy the retrieval team," he ordered, his voice barely controlled. "And bring me that predator, alive." The second team descended from the ship, their weapons set to stun. This time they were prepared. They surrounded the alley where the soldiers had fallen, scanning the area for signs of movement. The biosignature was faint, but still there. The retrieval unit advanced cautiously, their eyes scanning every shadow, every corner. They knew this creature was not to be underestimated. And yet, as they moved deeper into the alley, they found nothing. "No sign of the target," one of them reported. "It's gone." Back on the ship, the commander stared at the monitor in disbelief. How could the creature simply vanish? He slammed his fist against the console, the sharp crack of his claws against the metal ringing through the command deck. "Find it," he snarled. "We will not leave this planet without that predator." The crew began an extensive search, expanding their scans across the city. As the hours passed, the tension aboard the ship grew. The predator had disappeared completely, its trail cold. Yet the commander refused to give up. He knew that Earth held the key to a weapon unlike any they had ever seen. As night fell over the city, the drones detected a faint signal similar, but not identical to the one they had previously found. This time, the signal led them to a different location, a quiet suburban neighborhood just outside the city. The commander reviewed the scan data, frowning. The energy signature was weaker here, less intense, but there was still something predatory about it. He ordered another capture team to investigate. The soldiers moved swiftly through the empty streets, guided by the signal. They came to a small, ordinary-looking house. No one was home, but through the front window, they could see movement. Something was there. The door slid open silently, and the soldiers entered. Inside, the house was dimly lit, cozy, and quiet. The signal came from deeper within, somewhere in the living room. One of the soldiers motioned for the others to fan out. And then, in the center of the room, they saw it. Sitting on a soft cushion, curled in on itself, was the predator. It was small, too small to be dangerous, the soldiers thought. Its black fur gleamed in the dim light, and its eyes, half closed in the lazy manner of a creature completely at ease, glinted with a calm intelligence. It was a house cat. The soldiers stared at the creature in disbelief. This was the apex predator they had been hunting. It didn't seem possible. The cat yawned, revealing a set of sharp white teeth, before lazily stretching its body. The commander watched the scene unfold through their helmet cams, a look of disbelief crossing his face. "Are you sure this is the target?" he asked, his voice edged with suspicion. One of the soldiers stepped closer to the cat, his scanner confirming the match. "Yes, Commander. It matches the energy signature." The commander remained silent for a long moment. "Capture it," he ordered finally. "Bring it aboard." The soldiers cautiously approached the cat, holding out a containment device. The cat watched them with mild curiosity, its tail flicking lazily. As they closed in, it suddenly leaped from the cushion with a speed that defied its size, darting across the room and disappearing into the shadows once more. The soldiers scrambled, searching every corner, every nook and cranny of the house. But the cat had vanished, leaving no trace of its presence behind. Back on the ship, the commander paced the deck, his frustration growing with every passing minute. The creature had evaded them again, slipping through their grasp like smoke. This was no ordinary animal, it was far more dangerous, far more cunning than they had anticipated. "What kind of creature is this?" he muttered to himself, staring at the empty screen. Then, his communications officer spoke up. "Commander, the humans have arrived." Through the ship's surveillance feed, the commander watched as 2 humans, an older woman, and a young man returned to the house. They entered casually, not realizing that an alien species had just been there, hunting their pet. The woman called out a name. "Mittens? Here, kitty kitty." There was a rustle from beneath the couch, and the cat emerged, purring contentedly as it wound itself around her legs. The humans seemed completely unaware of the danger lurking within their household, as if this predator was nothing more than a harmless companion. "Unbelievable," the commander growled. "This creature has these humans under its control." For hours, the Orion ship remained cloaked, observing the house, studying the strange relationship between the humans and their supposed predator. They watched as the humans fed the cat, stroked its fur, and allowed it to sleep curled up on their laps. It was as if the humans were entirely unaware of the deadly power that rested in their midst. "We've been hunting the wrong species," the commander realized at last. "This creature isn't just dangerous, it's a master of deception." The cat, Mittens, continued to behave in ways that baffled the Orions. It would sit perfectly still for hours, watching the humans with an almost unnerving calmness. Then, in an instant, it would dart off, chasing an insect or toy with startling speed and precision. The predator was clearly capable of great violence, yet the humans treated it as if it were harmless. The Orion commander could hardly believe it. How could a species as weak as humans have tamed such a beast? The thought unsettled him. As the night wore on, the cat eventually settled into sleep on a windowsill, its body curled up into a ball, its tail draped lazily over the edge. The humans had gone to bed, leaving the cat to its own devices. "We must capture it now," the commander decided, while it is vulnerable. The capture team, this time accompanied by elite xenobiologists, was deployed once more. The house was silent as they approached, the only sound the soft rustling of leaves in the breeze. They entered the home as they had before, moving cautiously, weapons at the ready. The cat remained motionless on the windowsill, its eyes closed, its breathing steady. It didn't stir as the soldiers moved into position around it. "This time, there will be no escape," the commander muttered through the comms. "Proceed." With one swift movement, a containment field was deployed, encasing the cat in a shimmering energy barrier. The soldiers exchanged glances, waiting for the predator's response. But the cat didn't react. It merely opened one eye, regarded them with mild annoyance, and then closed it again, curling tighter into its sleeping position. The commander watched in disbelief as the predator allowed itself to be captured. Was it truly so confident in its power that it didn't feel the need to resist? Or had it simply decided that this battle was no longer worth its effort? The cat, now securely contained within the energy field, was carefully transported back to the ship. The commander stared at the small, black creature as it was placed in a reinforced containment unit on the lab deck. It seemed so harmless, so docile. But he knew better. "This is no ordinary predator," he said quietly, more to himself than to anyone else. "There's more to this creature than meets the eye." As the ship prepared to depart Earth's orbit, the commander couldn't shake the feeling that capturing the cat had been far too easy. He watched it through the containment glass, waiting for something, anything, that would confirm his suspicions. The cat opened its eyes, stretched and yawned, its tiny teeth glinting under the harsh lab lights. It turned in a circle before settling back into a comfortable position, seemingly content with its surroundings. The ship was several hours into its journey back to the Dominion homeworld when things started to go wrong. It began with a subtle malfunction in the ship's energy systems, a minor disruption that caused the lights to flicker. Then, the ventilation system faltered, creating an unexpected buildup of pressure in certain sections of the ship. "Commander, we're experiencing unusual system failures," the chief engineer reported. "We're investigating now." The commander frowned, glancing back at the containment unit. The cat remained where it was, apparently unconcerned by the chaos beginning to unfold around it. Could this creature be responsible? No, it was impossible. The energy field was secure. The cat couldn't be doing anything. Yet the failures continued. One by one, the ship's systems began to shut down. The gravity field fluctuated, causing objects to float momentarily before slamming back down as the field reactivated. Communications went offline, leaving the ship in a state of isolated confusion. Panic rippled through the crew as they scrambled to regain control of the vessel. But no matter what they did, the malfunctions continued to spread. Finally, the commander stormed down to the lab, his patience wearing thin. He approached the containment unit, his eyes narrowing as he stared at the cat. "What are you?" he growled. The cat's eyes flicked open, and it gazed up at him with a look that could only be described as complete indifference. Then, with a slow, deliberate motion, it stretched out its paw and pressed it against the side of the containment field. The energy barrier flickered, then vanished, as if it had never been there at all. The cat leaped gracefully to the floor, sitting calmly at the commander's feet. It stared up at him, unblinking, as if daring him to make the next move. The commander took a step back, his heart pounding in his chest. This wasn't just an animal. It was something far more dangerous than he could have imagined. The cat moved through the ship with the same effortless grace it had displayed on Earth, navigating the corridors as if it knew exactly where it was going. The crew watched in stunned silence as it passed, their fear and confusion growing with every second. In the control room, alarms blared as the ship's systems continued to fail. The commander ordered his crew to regain control, but deep down, he knew it was futile. The predator they had captured was not of this world, and it had already won. The cat disappeared into the shadows, leaving behind a trail of destruction that the Orions would never be able to explain. The ship, now adrift in space, would soon be lost, just another casualty of the mysterious apex predator from Earth. And on Earth, as the sun rose over the quiet suburban neighborhood, the humans remained blissfully unaware that their beloved pet, Mittens, had once again returned from a galactic adventure. For the cat had always known how to get home. The ship drifted silently through the void, its once proud systems now a patchwork of malfunctioning components and dying sparks. Inside, the atmosphere was thick with tension as the crew struggled to comprehend the sudden collapse of their technology. The commander stood in the control room, his eyes fixed on the screen that flickered weakly before him. He couldn't shake the image of the cat calm, composed, completely at ease, as it defied every measure they had taken to contain it. How had they underestimated this creature so badly? They had prepared for a beast of unimaginable power, something that would test their strongest warriors, only to face this, a creature that toyed with them, that evaded capture with ease, and now wandered their ship, apparently without fear. His thoughts were interrupted by the sudden arrival of his second-in-command, her voice urgent. "Commander, we're losing control of the ship's core." The cat. Enough, he roared, his temper finally breaking. "It is not a mere animal. It's something else entirely, and we have no idea what it is capable of." The bridge crew fell silent. The realization that the apex predator was still somewhere on board, loose and possibly manipulating the ship's systems, weighed heavily on them. They had never encountered anything like this before, and the uncertainty gnawed at their resolve. "I want a full lockdown of the ship," the commander ordered, his voice tight with determination. "Seal every hatch, every access point. We can't allow it to sabotage us any further." The crew scrambled to obey, activating the emergency protocols that would isolate every section of the ship. The blast doors slammed shut, cutting off each part of the vessel. But deep down, the commander wondered if any of it would be enough. He had seen what the creature was capable of. It was not something that could be contained by mere walls or doors. He sat down heavily in his command chair, staring at the glowing interface before him. His mind raced as he tried to piece together what had gone so horribly wrong. Had the humans known? Were they aware of what this creature really was? Or had they been just as clueless, living alongside this predator, oblivious to its true nature? Before he could dwell on the thought any further, the lights in the control room flickered again. The hum of the ship's systems, which had been faltering for the past few hours, grew ominously quieter. The commander felt a sinking feeling in his chest. The cat, no. The thing was still on the move. In the bowels of the ship, the cat wandered through the corridors with casual indifference, its tail flicking lazily behind it. The creature moved as though it had been here before, its keen eyes watching the flickering lights overhead and the sealed doors that marked the ship's desperate attempt to contain it. It sniffed at the air, sensing the tension and fear that permeated the environment. The ship was alive with unease, and it amused the cat. It padded silently down the hallway, its movements fluid and graceful. Its black fur blended into the shadows as it approached the ship's core, where the pulsing energy of the Dominion's power source flickered in its protective containment. The cat sat down a few feet from the core, watching the glow with mild interest. It was a curious thing, the way these aliens relied so heavily on their machines, their systems of control. They thought they could trap it, manage it, but it had been free for too long. The cat stretched out its claws, scratching idly at the metal floor, and then stood again, resuming its slow, unhurried pace. Every door that had been sealed slid open at its approach. Every system designed to keep it out malfunctioned just enough to allow it passage. It was as if the ship itself had bent to the will of this creature, succumbing to the silent force of its presence. On the bridge, the crew watched in disbelief as one system after another shut down. The commander's second-in-command spoke, her voice betraying her fear for the first time. "Commander, the lockdown has failed. The creature. It's overriding everything." The commander clenched his fists, frustration boiling in his chest. How? How is it doing this? "We don't know," she replied, her voice barely above a whisper. "It's as if the ship is reacting to it, like it knows what the creature wants." The commander slammed his fist onto the console. "We need to stop it. Prepare to deploy the last containment unit." This time there would be no tranquilizers, no gentle measures. The containment unit was a last resort weapon designed to subdue anything on board through force. It was not meant for capture, it was meant to neutralize threats. The crew moved quickly, setting the system in motion. The unit would release an energy pulse that would target the life force of any being in its radius. It was indiscriminate, but the commander didn't care anymore. The predator had proven too dangerous, too uncontrollable. It had to be destroyed, even if it meant losing valuable assets or crew members in the process. "We'll drive it into the lower decks," the commander said, his voice hard. "And we'll activate the containment pulse. It won't escape this time." The cat felt the shift in the ship's energy before it happened. The lights grew dim, and the air grew thick with the scent of anticipation. The ship was preparing for something it thought would trap the creature once and for all. But the cat was no ordinary animal. It had lived many lives, seen many things. It had roamed ancient forests and prowled through human homes. It had known the wilderness and the comforts of civilization, and it had always survived. Whatever the ship had planned, the cat knew it would not be so easily subdued. It moved faster now, its paws silent as it darted through the corridors, a blur of sleek black fur. The ship groaned under the strain of its systems, as if it were fighting against the very pulse it was preparing to release. The cat felt the tension growing, but it did not slow. In the core chamber, deep within the ship, the pulse was activated. It spread through the vessel in a ripple of energy, sweeping through every deck, every room. The crew held their breath, waiting for the signal that the creature had been neutralized. But as the pulse reached the cat, something strange happened. The energy that had been meant to subdue it did not push the creature back or force it into submission. Instead, it seemed to flow through the cat, absorbed into its body as if it were nothing more than a gentle breeze. The cat blinked, its eyes glowing faintly in the darkened hallway, and continued on its way. Back on the bridge, the commander stared at the readouts, his mouth dry with disbelief. The pulse. It didn't work, the second-in-command whispered. The crew fell silent, their eyes wide with shock. The ship's most powerful containment system had failed. They were out of options. The cat finally reached its destination, a central access hatch that led to the heart of the ship's systems. With a casual flick of its tail, it moved toward the control panel. It leaped onto the console, its paws pressing lightly against the controls, and the ship responded. The energy that powered the vessel began to flicker, then surge, then collapse in on itself as the cat manipulated the systems with effortless ease. It wasn't that the cat understood the technology in the way the Orions did. It simply knew how to break things. It had been breaking things for a long time: furniture, curtains, windows, and now, an intergalactic warship. The core destabilized, and alarms began to wail throughout the ship. The lights flickered and died, and the cat sat back, satisfied with its work. The ship's power was gone, its systems offline, and the Orions, those strange, arrogant creatures, were now left stranded in the cold void of space. The crew descended into chaos as the ship began to lose stability. The commander sat in stunned silence, his mind reeling from the events that had unfolded. How had they been bested by such a small, seemingly insignificant creature? "We've lost everything," one of the crew muttered in despair. "No," the commander said, his voice low and filled with bitterness. "We haven't lost everything. We've been played." He stood, his eyes narrowing, as he turned toward the ship's exit hatch. He had to see it for himself, the creature that had undone his entire mission. He walked down the darkened corridors, past the fallen crew members, until he reached the core chamber. There, in the flickering light of the dying ship, he saw it. The cat sat calmly in the center of the room, licking its paw with an air of indifference. It glanced up at the commander as he approached, then returned to its grooming as if nothing in the universe could possibly concern it. The commander stared at the creature, his disbelief turning to something else, something darker: rage, helplessness, and finally grudging respect. In the end, they had underestimated the cat in every possible way. Far from the crippled Orion ship, back on Earth, the sun rose over the quiet suburban neighborhood. The humans stirred in their beds, unaware of the galactic drama that had played out in the depths of space. They would never know that their beloved pet, Mittens, had faced and defeated an interstellar empire in a single night. And as Mittens curled up on her favorite windowsill, basking in the warmth of the morning light, she knew that her reign would continue, unchallenged, for as long as she desired. After all, she was the apex predator.